தெற்களமும் அது சிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் பக்க சிறு பிறை முதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் வழக்க இருந்த தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிலமை திரும்பி என்று செயமறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே. வந்தே மாதரம் வந்தே மாதரம் சுஜலாம் சுஃபலாம் மலயஜ ஷீதலாம் சஸ்யஷாமலாம் மாதரம் வந்தே மாதரம். शुभ्रजोत्स्ना पुलकितयामिनी पुल्लकुसुमित ध्रुवधरशोभिनी सुहासिनी सुमधुरभाषिणी सुखदां वरदां मातरं वन्दे मातरम् मातरम्.
Thank you, everyone. I now invite Professor A. Shankaran, D. CPR Section IMU, to deliver the welcome address.
Everyone gathered here. Welcome address is not merely an introduction to the program. It is a voice that sets the tone, reflects the dignity of the institution, and warmly unites every guest in a spirit of respect, purpose, and hospitality. It is a supreme art of the teacher to awaken joy in creative expression and knowledge. These inspiring words remind us that institutions grow stronger when guided by visionary leadership and enlightened minds. At the outset, I extend my respectful greetings to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Malini V. Shankar, whose visionary leadership continues to guide Indian Maritime University towards excellence, though she is unable to be present here today. And I also extend my respectful greetings to our respected Pro Vice Chancellor, Dr. Raju Balaji, whose visionary leadership and prudent guidance continue to elevate the university's academic distinction. His enduring commitment to institutional growth and excellence remains an inspiring force for the entire university community. I also extend my heartfelt welcome to Shri Pankaj Saran, our distinguished speaker for today's lecture on technology, power, and influence, the shaping of a new world. We are deeply honored by his gracious presence, his rich diplomatic experience, and strategic insights makes this lecture both timely and profoundly relevant in today's rapidly transforming global environment. Welcome you, sir. I also take pleasure in extending a warm welcome to Mrs. Preeti Saran. We are delighted by her gracious presence here today and sincerely appreciate her participation in the distinguished gathering. Welcome you, ma'am. I warmly welcome all the dignitaries, senior officials, faculty members, students, and other guests who are present here today. You all know the proverb, knowledge is a treasure, but wisdom is knowing how to use it. So, in an era where technology is redefining economies, governance, security, and international relations, such intellectual engagements become essential to understand the changing dynamics of global influence and power. In today's scenario, nations across the world are witnessing unprecedented transformations, which are driven by technological advancements, artificial intelligence, digital innovation, sustainability, geopolitical shifts, and so on and so forth. This maritime sector too is evolving rapidly through smart technologies, green shippings, cyber resilience, and global connectivity. It is therefore very essential that institutions like Indian Maritime University continue to create platforms for dialogue, reflections, and knowledge sharing. Today's distinguished lecture is not merely an academic event or an academic program. It is an opportunity to broaden your perspectives, inspire the young minds, and strengthen our collective understanding of the emerging world shaped by technology and strategic influence. With these kind words, I once again extend my cordial welcome to one and all gathered here. I wish this program a great success and meaningful deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your warm words, sir. May I now request Mr. Saran, Finance Officer, IMU, to present bouquet and memento to our chief guest, Shri Pankaj Saran, as a token of our respect and gratitude.
Madam. Sir. Ready, ma'am?
Thank you, sir. I now invite Dr. Shibu, DRCTR IMU, to present a bouquet and memento to Srimati Preeti Saran. Thank you so much, sir. It is now my privilege to introduce our distinguished speaker for the day, Shri Pankaj Saran. He is a former diplomat with nearly 4 decades of distinguished experience in foreign policy, strategic affairs, and national security. During his illustrious career, he has served in key positions In the Prime Minister's office, the National Security Council Secretariat, the Ministry of External Affairs, and several Indian missions abroad. He served as India's ambassador to Russia and as India's High Commissioner to Bangladesh. He also headed the Northern Division in the Ministry of External Affairs, overseeing relations with Nepal and Bhutan. From 2018 to 2021, he served as the Deputy National Security Advisor for Strategic Affairs, where he was involved in regional and global strategic formulation, including maritime security, Arctic affairs, neighborhood policy, and technology and economic security. At present, Shri Pankaj Saran is the convener of NatStrat, a Delhi-based independent center for research on strategic and security issues. He is also a member of the National Security Advisory Board and a distinguished fellow at the National Maritime Foundation. He is widely respected as a commentator and writer on foreign affairs, security, and strategic issues. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Shri Pankaj Saran to deliver his lecture on technology, power, influence, the shaping of a new world.
Morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. So nice to be here in beautiful Mahabalipuram, Chennai, this lovely campus. And I want to begin by thanking Professor Shankaran, Dr. Raju Balaji, and of course Dr. Udantaraman, who I've been in touch with, and of course the Vice Chancellor, Mrs. Manani Shankar. So great pleasure to be here with all of you in this wonderful campus, and I am very grateful that you invited me, given me this opportunity to talk to all of you. All of you are going to be the future architects and leaders of modern India, and I am looking forward to a very interactive session, also learning from you as we go along. And I have to say, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a scientist, and I'm not a technologist. So I'm so happy that all of this, you have still invited me as a former diplomat to come and speak to all of you. So as you are busy in your day-to-day projects, in your classes, in your learning, sometimes it is important to step back, take a break from your classes, and think about the outside. Think about outside the syllabus. And there are many things in our lives we take for granted. And one of those things we take for granted is the world that we live in. And I want to spend a little time, a few minutes, in the next 30 minutes, to talk to you about some of these issues which relate to the world at large. And I hope that the next 30 minutes, a few of the points which I will mention to you will excite your mind, and you will be encouraged to think a little deeper into some of these issues. But the fact is that all of you, without exception, will be adjusting and contributing both to some of the most transformative technological, economic, and social changes in history. And so it is so nice that I'm talking to people like you. You know, yesterday I was at the beach in Mangalapuram, and I was walking and I was in the water. And the first thought that came to me was that what was the Chola dynasty 10 centuries ago thinking? And immediately it reminded me of the fact that the Chola dynasty at that time understood the importance of technology, of power, and influence. They were the masters of statecraft. They were the masters of shipbuilding techniques. And sitting in this very land, they extended their influence beyond the seas across the entire Asian continent. We have a lot to learn from them. So, this of course is a different era, and I'm jumping from the Chola to today. But what is common between the Chola dynasty and 2026, the 21st century, are a few things. The human urge to be the best, to be the richest, to be the most powerful, to control, to dominate, and to decide the fate of others. That is the same. And technology is the tool that has historically been used to meet all these ends. And there are lots of books on
பண்ணலாம் ஃபீல் பண்ணலாம்
Check this, I can move on. On the screen, light so
இந்த டைமிங்
Hear me? Okay. Thank you. Okay, sorry. This eruption.
yes,
So, anyway, I hope you're back. Minds are back. So, let me just rewind a little bit. I was saying that, on technology and the role it has played, there are lots of books, and I don't want to go through all of them, but I would strongly recommend that all of you should read some of them. But let me begin by one quotation to set the stage. There is this organization or a think tank in America called the RAND Corporation. Have any of you heard of it? Anyway, it's a well-known think tank. What they have very nicely put is, on this subject, they have said, technological revolutions have powerful geopolitical shockwaves. Some countries prosper, some fall behind, but a broad technological transformation represents one of the most profound challenges to grand strategy that a country can face. Nations will flourish to the degree that their societies provide fertile soil for the diffusion and application of new technologies, and to the degree that they can control and shape the effects of the transition to sustain healthy, coherent, and stable societies. So this is the stage I want to set before I move to the second part of what I want to talk about, which is a little scan of the technological landscape, just to give you some examples of what we are talking about. These are self-explanatory examples, but they will hopefully give you the sense of what I am trying to talk about and what is the topic of our discussion today. Example 1, social media. All of you have mobile phones? But you use them? You use them too much or too little? Maybe too much. Okay. Now, in one of the books by Mustafa Suleiman, you must read this. It's called The Coming Wave. He says, and he refers to an article published in the New York Times. Have you heard of the New York Times? Good. The article says, its headline, "Who needs God when we have got Google?" Do you agree? And asserts that technology has developed a tendency to play God. Google doesn't simply point users to the best search results, but often works on an agenda to decide what the best search results should be. Google. On Tinder, have you heard of Tinder? Yes, sir. Okay. An algorithm determines who you will meet. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube use algorithms or code to moderate content. And the code determines what content is permissible, categorizes it, and decides what to promote or what to suppress. In 2023, the number of social media users worldwide had soared to about 5 billion. So 5 billion human beings on planet Earth are using social media. And this number is expected to go up to almost 6 billion by next year. Facebook dominates the space with over 3 billion active users monthly. YouTube has 2.5 billion monthly active users, while WhatsApp, Instagram, WeChat, and Facebook Messenger have over a billion users. Have you heard of all of these things? Do you use them? Okay. India is the largest market for Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp, and the third largest for Twitter. In Google, in 2019, Google announced that it had reached quantum supremacy. Second example, renewable energy. This is going to become the largest single source of electricity generation by 2027. And this shift to renewable is happening at an unprecedented pace. And it is expected that more renewable capacity will be added in the next 5 years than in the previous 2 decades. Second example. Third example, which will be relevant to you and what you study. 99% of all transoceanic digital communications, including $10 trillion in daily financial transactions, guess what? Travel through a network of just over 500 active submarine cables, many of which are the thickness only of a garden hose. Imagine the technology. The ocean floor, of which you are going to be the masters, is becoming an active operational domain. And so, states and countries are investing heavily in seabed warfare, in capabilities to tap and to disrupt or sever that we will destroy fiber optic arteries through a crisis. Third example. Next example, a single generative AI query such as ChatGPT. Do you use ChatGPT? Are you allowed? Okay. Consumes roughly 10 times the electricity of a standard Google search. It is projected that data centers could consume up to 10% of global electricity by 2030, drastically straining national power grids. My next example, precision in the military and in the defense field, precision guided munitions were once the exclusive, highly expensive monopoly of superpowers. Today, commercial technology and supply chains have democratized precision, allowing smaller countries, weaker non-state actors to project power globally. The future of warfare belongs not to massive, exquisite, and expensive platforms like aircraft carriers or manned fighter jets, but to networks of cheap, autonomous, and attritable, or that is expendable systems. In the recent war we saw in Iran, a traditional US Tomahawk cruise missile cost $2 million, but an Iranian designed Shahid loitering munition cost only $20,000. Sixth example. So what is the result? We are witnessing the emergence of non-state superpowers. That means entities armed with state-level strategic strike capabilities. Militias and insurgent groups can now hold global commerce hostage for strike capital cities, fundamentally disrupting the traditional model where only nations and governments held a monopoly over violence. So, at the height of the military spectrum, the introduction of extreme speed and artificial intelligence is destabilizing the nuclear and conventional deterrence frameworks of the Cold War era. Hypersonic glide vehicles combined with AI decision making are drastically compressing or reducing the time leaders have got to react, and therefore increasing the risk of escalation and of accidental war. Next example, space. Space we associated as a peaceful domain, but today it has become heavily contested. It has become the new nervous system for global communications, economic synchronization, and military operations. Have you heard of SpaceX? Driven by SpaceX's reusable rocket technology, the cost of launch per kilogram has fallen from $50,000 to $3,000 per kilogram because of reusable rockets of SpaceX. As in 2024, Starlink, have you heard of Starlink? Constellation operates how many satellites do you know? 5,500 active satellites. And they are providing a decentralized, highly resilient broadband backbone that the Russians realized in the Ukraine war was used against the Russians to defeat the mighty Russian army. Imagine one individual, one private entity, a private citizen. Have you heard of him? Elon Musk, good, possessed the unilateral power to geofence satellites across the globe. And in period of time established a whole network called Starlink. What is Starlink? You know, Starlink is you take your mobile and you connect it to the satellite. You don't need a tower, you don't need terrestrial towers. You go straight from your pocket right up to the satellite and you connect it to the entire humanity. Political boundaries, differences, India, Pakistan, China has no meaning. If the Starlink network provides you guaranteed connectivity, telecom connectivity across the world. And my last example, and of course you're all familiar, artificial intelligence. The market size of artificial intelligence is estimated to grow from $100 billion in 2020 to almost $300 billion in 2024, which is 2 years ago. And according to the Government of India data, projections suggest that the AI could become a $4 trillion global industry by 2030. And inside India, the AI market has rapidly expanded also. And it is expected to reach more than $130 billion by 2032, growing at over 40% annually according to NITI Aayog. NITI Aayog is also saying that AI could add up to $500 to $600 billion to India's GDP by 2035. It is not just economics, it is the redistribution of power towards those who control data, infrastructure, and computational capabilities. Have you heard of NVIDIA? The CEO, Jensen Huang, has called it the AI's 5-layer cake. What is he talking about? Layer 1. When he talks about AI, the AI revolution, what is the 5-layer cake? First layer, energy, the foundation. Huang calls this the largest infrastructure build-out in human history. Second layer, chips or computing hardware, semiconductors, GPUs, LPUs, interconnects, parallel processing, and high-speed memory. Nations or firms who dominate this layer will control the physical means of AI acceleration. Layer 3, infrastructure, data centers, networking, cloud platforms, cooling systems, orchestration software. This is the plumbing that turns thousands of chips into a coherent super system. Layer 4, models which are foundational, or in other words, LLMs, reasoning systems, physics. This is the layer most people associate with AI. Layer 5, applications. You know applications and use cases, humanoid robots, autonomous systems, healthcare diagnostics, financial services, etc., etc., etc. This is where economic value is added. AI. So therefore, the emerging landscape has produced a technology order structured around the control of semiconductor supply chains, advanced computing, and AI hardware. Just one example. China, it controls 69% of global rare earth mining and nearly 90% of global refining of these rare earths, giving it a near monopoly over the heavy metals essential for high performance magnets used in systems ranging from missiles to electric vehicles. So to sum up, these are few examples I've thrown at you, just to illustrate, just to tell you what we are talking about here. This is not something which is in the air, this is real. And so, to sum up, I would say there are 5 technologies that are transforming our lives: AI, artificial intelligence, platforms and social media, defense technologies, robots and autonomous systems, and finally clean energy technologies. This is the technology part. The question is, who is controlling this technology? To understand where power lies, we have to ask, who is controlling this technology? Let us try and understand that. Who's controlling the technology, who's controlling its ingredients, and who's controlling the supply chains? First, those who innovate, those who control the supply chains of raw materials, processes, and intellectual property, and those who have access to and those who control the markets. These are the people who control all this. Let me elaborate a little bit. Big tech. Have you heard of big tech? This is the phrase or the name given to private corporations today who are growing beyond the size and reach of many, many countries in the world. Private corporations are becoming bigger than countries, are becoming bigger than governments. And so the balance of power between a private company and a government of a country is changing very, very fast. Very fast. For example, let me take the search engine market. You know what is the search engine?
Yes.
Good. Today, Google, as I told you, rules search worldwide. And do you know what its market share is? It's about 84%. Google, one company, controls 84% of the global market of the search engine. And Google and Bing together have effectively 93% of the search market between them. And therefore, about 84% of the entire world's internet searches see and are influenced by what one company, Google, wants them to see. How many of you use Google here? 90%. Your brain is shaped by Google.
Okay, I know this.
A vast span of services from very different sectors have been collapsed into one corporation. Suppose Google was in Mammalpuram, would you have been happy? Where is Google located? Do you even know where it is located? What does Google do? Mapping and location, reviews and business listings, advertising, video streaming, office tools, calendars, emails, photo storage, video conferencing. One company. They rule your life. It is not your vice chancellor, it is Google. Big tech companies provide tools for everything from organizing a birthday to running multi-million-dollar businesses. The only equivalent organization to this scale is a government. People are calling it and giving it a name. And that name is Googleization. We are in the middle of Googleization, which is a range of services provided for free or at low cost, leading to one entity functioning massively across countries. So these corporations, not only Google, have $1 trillion or lakhs of crores of valuations and more assets than most of the countries in the world. Let us take another example, Apple. Have you heard of Apple? Good. It has products which are being used by 1.2 billion people across the world. And in 2022, Apple was valued more than all companies listed on the UK's FTSE 100 stock exchange combined. That is Apple. And the combined revenues of all companies in Fortune's Global 500 are already 44% of the world GDP. So, in other words, I'm saying to you that the companies listed in the Global 500, top 500, constitute 44% of the world's GDP. And the profits of these companies are larger than the top 6 countries' annual GDP. So they control AI processors, the best models, the most advanced quantum computers, and the overwhelming majority of robotics capacities and intellectual property. So therefore, big tech and the tendency to operate outside the rules and regulations of sovereign constitutions makes them very difficult to handle, very difficult to circumscribe. So therefore, they wield huge amounts of influence without accountability, and they exercise a stranglehold over speech, over expression, and therefore over politics. They slip between making profit on the one hand and influencing opinions on the other. And so governments are worried about this monopoly and this huge market dominance of big tech. And therefore, it is also both good and also bad. And they can influence ideas, they can influence opinions, they can influence views, and they sometimes also can destabilize nations and politics. So therefore, what is at the bottom of this technology that I've talked about? These are what is making these companies, what is making big tech big, what is making big tech powerful? It's financial capital, it's the innovation ecosystem, it's the raw material access and the industrial base, and it is their distribution network. So this is what is controlling the technology that I have spoken to you about. So if we know what is the technology, if we know who is controlling the technology, the third question arises, and therefore, who has the influence? Who has the influence? The influence is by those who control. Now, big tech is landing up using 3 things: technology, geopolitics, and finance. Now, in the next 10 years, AI is expected to become a foundational layer of the economy, without which countries will be unable to operate at full capacity. AI will determine and will become the basis of future geopolitical and economic hegemony. And if you do not have sovereign, and I will come to the issue of sovereign AI capabilities, the country will be dependent on providers. And once you become dependent on providers, unplugging will not be an option. Because if you unplug, you will become weak, you will become uncompetitive, and all your systems based on AI will freeze. That's at a national level. At an individual level, if you're going to be dependent on foreign AI services and platforms, you will become vulnerable to propaganda and foreign censorship. And those who control the service will obviously have leverage over you, and that is the user, because they will harvest your data and the content they consume. And this will result in significant influence over individual social behavior and preferences, and overall over societal norms and collective decision making. I've already spoken about robots and autonomous systems. Their impact actually will be even more than AI, because it will extend beyond digital services. The maritime sector will also see several changes. The first will be the technologies used underwater autonomous vehicles, both armed and unarmed, and the impact in the areas of trade and transit. Now, the same book which I have referred to, The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleiman, he says when I talked about influence, who will exercise the influence, one of the serious problems which we are facing today is extraterritorial laws, such as, for example, the US Cloud Act or the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. What are these acts? What is the basic objective? These laws can compel or force US-based companies, including major cloud service providers like Microsoft, Google, and AWS, to disclose data, even if it is physically stored in India, to US government agencies for law enforcement or intelligence purposes. This means that despite data being in India, within Indian physical borders, it can still be accessed and subjected to foreign legal claims, effectively undermining India's jurisdictional control and compromising India's sovereignty. There is another very famous historian which I would recommend you should use and you should read, Yuval Noah Harari. Have you heard of him? He's very young, he must be in his 40s. He's written a lot of books, he's a historian. What he says is, technological systems are not neutral. They reflect values and interests of those who control them. So in a world where a handful of corporations, remember we talked about big tech, handful of corporations, they are dominating AI infrastructure and data ecosystems. This could lead to what? This could lead to digital dictatorships or data empires. Very interesting word. Data empires, where autonomy is not eroded through coercion, but through algorithmic influence. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, when you have a mix of technology, power, and influence, you also automatically impact political choice. So therefore, he has argued, and many others have argued, including in India, that control over data rather than territory will define dominance in the 21st century. And those who monopolize data flows and AI systems will have the ability to predict human behavior and also shape it. And this will create asymmetries of power unprecedented in history, where corporations and states can both influence political choices and even individual behavior. So remember, control over data is going to be critical. And who can provide the data and who is the largest source of data in the world? India, because of our 1.4 billion people. What is happening to this data? Who has access to this data? What is this data being used for? This is the new game. This is the new contest in town. And have you heard of a company called Palantir Technologies? You should Google it, find it. These companies have moved beyond analytics, beyond commerce, into defense, intelligence, and surveillance. They are using data and using AI systems to watch you, to hear you, and to monitor you. So, the rapid rise of artificial intelligence, data infrastructure, and algorithmic systems has shifted the locus of influence from states and governments alone, which used to be the case, to a complex network that includes governments, corporations, and data-rich entities. Now, when I talk about big tech and big corporations, please also pay attention to another reality that we are living in. Let us look at a small country called Taiwan. Have you heard of Taiwan? Do you know that Taiwan alone accounts for 60% of total global foundry revenue and manufactures over 90% of the world's most advanced logic chips? You know, Taiwan perhaps is smaller than the size of Tamil Nadu. And you can check the population of Tamil Nadu, it may be equal to 3 districts of Tamil Nadu. Taiwan. You probably do not even find it on the map of the world. Did you know this? 60% of global foundry revenue and 90% of the world's advanced logic chips are being made in this little tiny island called Taiwan. And some people have called it the Silicon Sheep. Taiwan has created this ability where neither the United States nor China can actually launch an invasion into Taiwan. And both the United States and China, and of course us, are all, in fact the whole world is dependent on Taiwan. Another example, Netherlands. Have you heard of the country called Netherlands? Where is it? In Europe. There is a company there called ASML. Please check it out. ASML. It has a 100% global monopoly on lithography machines. 100%. One company is catering to the entire world. And each lithography machine is estimated to cost more than $200 million, which contains 100,000 parts, and it is mathematically impossible for any single nation to replicate that. So look at the power of one company in the world, ASML, based in the Netherlands, which is producing lithography machines which are being used across the world. So this whole problem between USA and China is about technology. And the United States has tried to choke off China's access to high-end silicon because they want to control and retard and slow down China's technological progress. But look at the cycle. Even if chips are manufactured in Taiwan, they rely on US or American software and American intellectual property. So America can theoretically block Taiwan's exports of chips. When we talk of influence and who controls, there is another trend going on, which is where we are moving from what we call petrostates to electrostates. Do you understand what that means? That means we are moving from fossil fuel energy to electric energy. So the petrostates, which used to dominate and control and exercise influence, are moving to electrostates. Now, what are the lessons for all of this? What I have mentioned to you. Lesson is, countries benefit from technological revolutions in different ways and to different degrees. It is quite possible for countries to be left behind. Don't mistake that. If you're not good enough, you'll be left behind. If you want to be better than the others, you must have a national commitment to learning, experimentation, and adaptation. You must have a broad network of citizens with the drive and the ecosystem to promote learning, innovation, and production. You have to have skill talent, you have to have financing, you have to have infrastructure. You should also remember that if you can master a certain technology, it is not going to remain permanent. You may master a technology, but in the long term, you may lose your advantage. And countries that are in the frontier technologies become the hubs of global networks of science, technology, trade, human talent, institutions, and rule making. So what is the conclusion of all that I have said? We have entered an era of widespread techno-nationalism. Techno-nationalism. People say, some leaders have said, whoever becomes the leader in artificial intelligence will become the ruler of the world. Europe is trying to develop its own European metaverse. So, technology has eroded the stable sovereign borders of nation states. It has created global flows of people, information, of ideas, of know-how, of commodities, etc., etc. It has changed the nature of geopolitical strategy. It is touching almost every aspect of people's life. So, technology will change society, and it will change the meaning of what it is to be a human being. It has changed the role of the government of the nation state. So, we are at this point in history. Remember that technology is changing very, very fast. This could be an opportunity, but also a crisis. And finally, hard power will come through software. Now, as far as India is concerned, just a few thoughts on India. I am very optimistic about India, about our future, because India has shown that it is the digital capital of the world. What is the one skill that we have shown to the world, which is software, brain power? And all that I'm talking about in terms of digitalization, digital technologies, are all not in manufacturing, but sitting inside the laboratory, behind a computer screen, and making code, making algorithms. So from all of that point of view, we are very fortunate that we have this huge, massive human resource. But there is also vulnerability. For example, India even today is importing 85% of its semiconductor chips that it needs. 85% of India's, you see, this microphone, your mobile, this electricity, nothing will work here if you did not have the chips. Your car, your bus, your laptop, 85% of all of the chips that we are using today in India are imported. And where are they being imported from? One country, Taiwan. If tomorrow this import stops, all of you will be going back to the forest. You will have no mobile, no electricity, no laptop, no microphone, no music, nothing. So this is India's vulnerability. And in the last 3 years, our chips, because of the growing economy, have the imports of chips has gone up to 92%. And out of this 92%, 53% are being imported only from China. Only from China. In addition to chips, do you know that in the case of solar energy, India wants to go to renewable. In the case of solar, you are 76% dependent on silicon, 40 to 70% dependent on copper from China, just from one country. Lithium for electric batteries, your dependency on China is how much? 100%. 100% of your lithium comes from China. Nickel, 100% from China. Cobalt, 100% from China. And of course, APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients for your pharmaceutical sector, China. And you know what? We have a border problem with China. We have fought wars with China. Our soldiers and our military are located on the India-China border. So on the one hand, you have this problem with China, which is an adversary, but the other reality is what I have just told you. So, second problem which I have sitting here in the Indian Maritime University, shipbuilding. India's share in shipbuilding, I was checking in Google, I couldn't believe the figures. India's share in global shipbuilding is 0.06%, not even 1%, not even 0.10%, 0.06% basically means India does not make ships. Is that possible? You are all 20-year-olds. Can you accept what people like me in my generation did? You should ask us, what were you doing? Were you sleeping? When you have a coastline of 7,500 kilometers and 95% of your India's trade comes through the sea, we don't make ships. Why? All of you are studying here, you want jobs. Why can't you ask your teachers a simple question? Sir, why did we not make ships? Can we not make ships? So we talk about chips, what ships? Now, so while we have a large market, we have so much, as I told you, advantage in all of this, we have these vulnerabilities. We have also to be very careful about data sovereignty. You are the raw material for all the big tech companies I have mentioned. They live on you. They know everything about you, what you are thinking, what you might think tomorrow, what you thought yesterday. This is the new raw material which is making them richer and richer and more powerful. So all these are challenges that we have to be very, very careful about. So I will finish my talk. I think I've spoken much more than 30 minutes. The question is, when you talk about the balance between the potential and the vulnerability, it's a very interesting study, and some of you should do this study. Net, are we in a good position or are we in a bad position? Because your lives are going to be affected. Tomorrow you may get a good job, but you will like to live in a country which is 3 times, 4 times, maybe more richer than today. You would like to live in a Tamil Nadu or in India where the per capita income is 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. That's your ambition. Today our GDP is 4 trillion. We would like the GDP to be 10 trillion. We would like Tamil Nadu's GDP to be 1 trillion. What can you do for that? So, but there's another thing which only you can do, no one else can do in the Indian Maritime University, which is to understand the future of the blue economy. You know it. Have you heard of something called the exclusive economic zone? Do you know that the size of India's exclusive economic zone is the size of India's landmass? Do you know the size of India's EEZ? 2 million square kilometers. If we begin to tap the resources below on the seabed, if we begin to tap ocean energy, wave energy, and all the seabed mining, and all the deep sea resources, including fisheries and minerals, we have not even touched the surface. We have not even touched the surface. Who can do it? Only you can do it. The Maritime University. Your job is to raise this issue right to the top of the national agenda. Don't leave it to New Delhi. The size and the scale of the blue economy is something you cannot even dream of. I am told by one of the studies that the potential of ocean or wave energy technologies is in India is equal to something like 40 to 60 gigawatts. And just one example. So let me say finally, we have no time because I have told you technology is moving very fast. There are new powers that are coming up. We have to build national champions. We have to have our own big tech. We have to have our own big companies who merge and cross all these supply chains. And yes, we should have hope because we have success stories. The Indian DPI or the Digital Public Infrastructure Stack or the UPI pin. Do you use Paytm and other Google Pay accounts?
Yes, sir.
So you now are all thinking that you were born with it. But in my generation, this was a dream. So we have the success story and we are exporting this technology to many countries in the world. So we have success. So all of this means that we have to multiply our success We have to use the potential we have. We have no time, and if we do not do this, then as I explained to you, we will fall behind. Because in this world today of technology, there is no such thing as a powerful country and a weak country. All countries can do the same thing. I have given you the example of Taiwan. And the second thing is that in this new world that we are living in, the governments are themselves struggling to keep pace with technology companies. Because technology companies are dictating governments, are making policy for government. So we are living in an exciting world, but also a very dangerous world. And therefore, it is no longer a world in which we are controlling each other through military, through tanks, through aircraft, the traditional means of power. This is the new age where physical boundaries, physical borders, old methods of power are no longer going to be relevant. Physical borders are having little and less meaning today. So this is what I wanted to throw to you, and I'll be happy to answer questions. And I hope you have taken away something from what I have said. Thank you so much for listening to me for such a long time. Thank you. If you have any questions, and I don't know, we already exceeded the time, so I'm going to ask the leadership. Do we have time for questions or we are finished?
We have time for questions.
So a few questions, I can take 2-3 more at a time. We can have one more. Yes, I see one hand there.
Hello, sir. So, definitely, technology in today's world is an indispensable asset. Like you said, power lies in the hands of those who monopolize data. So, sir, I wanted to ask you if it's something to be concerned about. The fact that technology dictates human affairs to such an extent. Is there a possibility that technology might become a liability rather than an asset in the near future?
Very good question. Any other questions? Then I can take. Yes.
Morning, sir.
Morning. Morning.
As you rightly said, that technology dictates the global power and geopolitical realities of the world. And as we know that there are endless possibilities regarding technology. So, but the private citizens can only do so much as their facilitation is provided to them. For example, India's bureaucratic system is it's called the steel frame of India. So my question is basically that is this India's steel frame malleable enough to change according to the changing global world order? Thank you.
Good. Any other questions? You know, on data, which you asked, of course, it is people call it the new oil, because whoever controls data is what feeds into your model, and therefore it is a very precious commodity. Luckily, in this new game, we are very well placed. We are the new oil. We have 1.4 billion people. So if there is one thing we have is data. Now the question is, there is a very, very fierce competition going on for access to this data. Whoever controls the data will continue to become more and more powerful, more and more rich, and more out of control. So tomorrow, if you want a situation where one of these names which I took, you have to tell him to stop services in India, he may or may not listen to it. His algorithm will get better and better. Now the question is, do we allow our data to go to him without any cost? Does he get it for free, or do we keep it in India? Now India is developing a lot of data centers, trying to keep the data there. There is a whole legislation to maintain data sovereignty. Data sovereignty has become a new phrase, which never existed 20 years ago or 10 years ago. But extraterritorial application is a big issue. Say, if you, for example, have one of these companies and they are American companies or maybe European or Chinese, they are governed not by Indian law, but by their law. If their law says that in a time of crisis, emergency, war, etc., they are liable to provide the data to their governments, that will be your data, my data. So extraterritorial application then becomes very important. So that's on the data, but in the medium term, we must ensure data sovereignty, we must ensure protection of our data, and so what we do not have, we have the data, but we do not have compute power. That is where we are severely lacking. And that is why the government is focusing so much on compute power. The entire semiconductor mission, the entire quantum mission, the entire supply chain issue of everything that goes into making a chip, all that is today getting the focus of the government because we want to increase rapidly our compute power. If you have the data and the compute power, then you can develop your own national champions and companies. You asked about technology, asset or liability. It is both. It is not just asset and liability, it could also be danger. Because if your life is being controlled by someone else, you feel helpless. And suppose it is not you as an individual, but you as India as a country. And the fate of India, our country, our motherland, is going to be controlled by some private entity sitting somewhere away, then you are in very serious trouble. If you have a war with Pakistan and you are not able to access navigation data for your missiles, for your flights, for your aircraft, for your radars, you can't fight war. So you not need satellites. Do you need 10 satellites? Do you need 100 satellites? Do you need 500 satellites? So you know the technology, you know it exists. Question is, do you have it? That is the real issue. Because technology is dual use. You can use it for good and for bad. Have you seen the movie called Oppenheimer? When the nuclear technology was invented, you could have it make, you could use nuclear for generating electricity, but you can also use it to make a bomb. So, multi-purpose technology, or what do you call it as a phrase, is the real issue. Artificial intelligence can be used for anything. It can be used to kill you, it can be used to benefit you. So, technology has always been dual purpose. From time immemorial. Question today is that whether India today is on par with the technological revolution that we are going through today. You can be rest assured that when you are sitting here in 2026, India will not be the same, or technology will not be the same in 2036, after 10 years. That is the scale of change. On the question of the steel frame, which is a very good question that you asked about whether the steel frame is malleable enough to cater to these things. This is a big challenge. This is the whole point. What kind of governance do you need to respond to this kind of a technological wave that we are going through? And this is a big question. Whether we are living in the past with past institutions or whether we are able to adapt. Government is trying its best to move fast and to adapt and to innovate and to be at the same speed as the private corporation. That is why you had some reforms in the last 5-10 years. Space sector has been opened up, semiconductor, quantum, blue economy. All these are examples where you have let everyone go, let private enterprise flourish. But whether it is fast enough, good enough is the question. But at the end of the day, remember that as private entities, private corporations get more and more powerful, at the end of the day, you will always need a regulator. Because the regulator takes care of the public good. A private company is not so much concerned about public good. It's only the state and the government. Because when you elect the government to protect you, not just from an external enemy, but to protect you from within also. So the government of the state, of the steel trade's job is to facilitate, but also regulate and to protect the common citizen, the most vulnerable citizen in the country or in the state has to be protected. That protection can never be given by a private company. It can only be given by the state. So I think we will stop here and once again, thank you very much. Thank you to the university for allowing me to come and wish you all success.
Thank you very much, sir, for that enlightening and thought-provoking address. Your insights and your experience have given us a deeper understanding of rapidly evolving global landscape. I now invite Dr. N. Kodandaraman, Academic Consultant IMU, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody, and greetings to you all. It gives me immense pleasure to express our sincere thanks and gratitude to our most honorable Vice Chancellor Madam and our respected Pro Vice Chancellor for their constant encouragement, support, and guidance, which will pave way for IMU to achieve greater recognition at global level in maritime academics and research. I thank to our respected Dean, Dr. Sankaran, for welcoming all for this distinction lecture program. Thank you, sir. We thank our finance officer, Mr. Saran, for taking part in this event. Thank you, sir. We express our heartfelt thanks and gratitude to our distinguished speaker, Shri Saran, Convenor, NatStrat, and former Ambassador of India, who kindly consented to deliver a lecture on technology, power, and influence, the shaping of a new world. Our respected Ambassador, Shri Saran, possesses vast expertise in foreign service and delivered an informative and inspiring lecture on advancements in technology are rapidly reshaping global power structures, with major technology firms increasingly acting as sovereign entities influencing geopolitics, economy, and social transformation. We sincerely thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable expertise in delivering such an inspiring lecture, which will certainly benefit our academic and student community. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We extend our sincere thanks to Madam Mrs. Priti Saran, former Ambassador of India, for graciously participating in this event. Thank you, madam. Thank you. We wish to express our sincere gratitude to our respected registrar, controller of examinations, deans, heads of various schools, faculty members, administrative staff, officers, staffs, and technical and IT staffs, and students for the gracious participation in this event, both online and offline. We wish to thank to all our respected campus directors for arranging live streaming of this event, and thanks to all the students, faculty, and administrative staff their participation in the event through online. We express our sincere thanks to the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, for extending all support and guidance in successfully organizing this event at the Indian Maritime University. We wish to thank to all UG and PG students who are all assembled here to attend this event and actively participating in this very interesting and distinguished lecture on how technology like AI, social media, and Google are changing our academic learning, economy, social transformations. Thank you all for your active participation and interaction with the speaker. Thank you. Finally, I would like to thank our CTR section, Mr. Dr. Sibu, Deputy Registrar, and other staffs for extending their wholehearted support and cooperation in organizing this event successfully. Once again, I thank you all for your gracious presence and active participation. Vanakkam, Nandri.
Thank you, sir. We shall now conclude this session with the national anthem. May I request everyone to kindly rise.
सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गागे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
I ask the students and faculty, please collect your snacks box when you leave.